Hey, what's going on, party people? Robert Jenkins here. Welcome to the latest episode, latest installment, latest iteration of the North Star podcast. I'm joined by my co-host, Jeff Gerlach, and today we're going to talk about fear. This is going to be kind of a metaphysical type of conversation. You know, a lot of times we're kicking it about freedom and liberty. We're still talking about that, but I think one of the most important forms of freedom in life is the being free from fear. And it seems to me like, especially in these COVID-19 times, in the pandemic times that we face right now, all of the powers that be and the evil that are, their whole job is to keep us afraid. And that's what television does, keep us in fear. Well, the people that do that do it on purpose, and they do it for a reason. That's because you cannot think properly when you're afraid. Your body gets stressed out. Your immune system is weakened when you're afraid. Mm-hmm. Your spiritual connection to God is weakened when you're afraid. Fear is a potent, weakening agent that people who wish to control you employ specifically for that purpose. So we're going to be talking about what's up.
I want to grab. Can you grab me my phone on the amp there? Because there is something, believe it or not, that I the first time I heard it about fear was great. I loved it. The Secret Walk. Thank you.
Look at that. She got skills. You didn't even see her on camera.
All right. I got to look it up, so you got to give me a second.
Okay. So anyway, that's what this episode is going to be about. So we have been talking a lot about COVID, and frankly, I'm tired of talking about COVID, but it's the news item du jour, that French accent I can't never do right. So we have to kind of talk about it, but we're going to talk about it from a different aspect. And just to clue you in, some of the notes that I took when we was discussing what we wanted to talk about, this was actually a couple of 2 or 3 weeks ago. I said we want to talk about the real nature of God and Satan, how Satan uses self-doubt and fear to control us. We want to talk about how things that the nature of coincidence and how things always seem to line up to work in your favor. And also we want to talk about creativity and the creative process. And the funny thing is, all of those issues, even creativity, is influenced by fear. Mm-hmm. If you're kept afraid, you're not a creative person. That kills your creativity when you're worried about outside influences. That's why you have to have a certain stability to be an artist or to be a creative person. In fact, a certain instability, a certain need, and a certain want drives that art. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have at least the basics that you need and a basic freedom from fear, you can't create to your full extent, the full extent of your creativity. But anyway, I think you had a quote.
Yes, I want to read this, and I'm not going to say who it's from. We're going to let it sink in first. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. I loved it when I heard that. And here's the interesting thing. You know who said that?
Who?
Yoda. Yoda.
Said this Yoda did?
Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. And hate leads to suffering. Yeah. I agree with it.
Because
you know what?
It's demonstrably
true. When I'm afraid, it means I feel out of control. Mm-hmm. There's something that I can no longer control.
Yep.
I can't even control my thinking.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm tunneled.
Mm-hmm.
And when I can't control, what do people start doing? They start getting angry.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get my way. I can't do what I want. It's not going the way I want it to go. And then you get angry.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you get angry, and because you still can't control, you still can't get it figured out, you still can't get it to go your way, the way you want it to go, now you start hating. It's you. It's you. It's you. You're the. Instead of looking at internally, you start looking outwardly. I've done this, so I'm saying you, but I'm talking about me.
Yeah.
I start looking outward now.
Yeah.
That's because of this. Hey, that's because of my government.
Yeah.
That's because of this. That's because of that.
That's because of those people that won't wear masks.
And now
that's because of the people that won't get vaccinated.
I have no freedom.
Mm-hmm.
I have none. I don't even have the power of choice anymore because I'm consumed by so much fear that I can't even make a decision other than what's the next emotions coming? Anger, hate, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, I wanted to chime in on something that you said 2 words. And one of the things is that you said God and you said Satan. And there's a certain group of people that hear this and they just got to chill up their spine. Uh-oh, here we go.
Yeah.
We're going to get Bible thumping. We're going to get all this. And these are common day words used to describe a power, a source.
Right.
And I think it's really important because I know for me, you know, I went to a Southern Baptist style private school for 7 years. And they gave me a very finite way of looking at God and Satan. It was very finite.
Yeah.
You know, God was really Jesus.
Yeah.
Who was white.
Yeah.
With blue eyes, long, beautiful hair.
Yeah, he had a nice little perm.
Actually, he looked like more like an '80s metal. You know, the women were loving.
Yeah.
Or a '70s dude.
'70s hippie dude with that long wavy hair.
And
little peace medallion, a little robe.
Satan was either a snake. I'm serious. I mean, this was a snake.
Yeah.
Or a spear, a trident with horns and a tail.
Yeah.
And because we were young kids, and you know what they were doing? Scaring us.
Scaring us, yeah.
Scaring us.
Right.
And that's a very finite, in a box view of something that is
it's infinite. You cannot know. And here's the other side of that coin. The other side of that coin right there is that there are certain people out there that are going to say, like you said, oh, Lord, here they go with that stuff again.
Yeah.
And they think we're going to go down a certain Judeo-Christian road. But then the other side of that coin is there's a certain set of Christians out there that they're going to hear what we talk about and the way we look at things. Like, oh, these dudes are heretics. These they don't know.
Absolutely.
They're crazy. They this, that, and the other. And what we're, not to keep y'all in the dark here, but I would just say that any conception that you can have of God and Satan, I would say, in my own mind, I would caution myself. I ain't telling you what to think, but I feel like that's probably you're probably already starting off on the wrong foot when you're starting to think of things that you can think of and compare God to it or Satan to it. That's telling us more about our culture and the way, the belief system that we grew up in, more than it does about those actual entities.
Yep.
In other words, what I'm saying is these beings are infinitely more powerful and infinitely greater
than anything we can conceive.
And anything you're reading about it, these may be good guidelines. They may be good. They may be pure fantasy in some cases. Who knows? Even pure fantasy has uses, though. Pure fantasy can help you think of things and frame it right in the mind. And it may even be more correct than facts sometimes. But, people get real dogmatic about stuff.
Yep.
And I've never been super dogmatic about like who is God or who is Satan. The one thing I would say is I don't believe, as you said, I don't believe God is some mystical great white man in the sky with flowing blue hair, blonde hair and blue eyes. I don't believe Satan is some horrible entity with cloven hoofs and a tail walking around underground somewhere. I would say that both of them are spirits.
Yeah, and a couple things I want to add to that. If you look up the word infinite and finite, we're finite. And actually, I think it's easier to talk about finite to explain infinite. But infinite means no beginning, no end. Finite has an end. It has a beginning. It has an end. In our brains, by definition, finite cannot comprehend infinite.
Right there,
it's impossible.
I was already having that thought. I was like, man, I can't even really understand what infinite means. Infinite means it didn't start and it will never end.
It's so
it's
difficult.
Always there.
You can't.
We can't conceive that as human beings because our very existence is finite.
It's very relative.
There was a time when there was not a building in that lot. Now there's a building over there. There was a time when my son did not exist. Now he exists. There was a time when I did not exist, and there will be another time when I don't exist again. We have a beginning and an end. We cannot comprehend things that are infinite. And I
And
found
a really cool thing to think about that is just how relative everything is. So we're on Earth, and we judge everything by what? Time,
distance.
time and distance, and what happens, and it's the sun rising, the sun setting. Well, all you have to do is go leave Earth in the space shuttle, in a spaceship. Now the sun no longer rises, and it doesn't set.
And time isn't actually even occurring then.
Now, what do you judge time by?
Yeah. Is there any time?
So all of a sudden, just simply going, 8 miles, 11 miles, I forget the number of Earth to space, but that changes, just that movement of going up changes the entire ball game of what you've based the entire existence of your life on here.
Yeah.
Meaning the relative time when we get up for work, when we eat dinner, when we do everything. Just leaving the Earth.
It all becomes moot.
It's gone.
It's a moot point.
When's dinner time? When's lunch?
Yeah. When the sun ain't up.
When do you clock in for work?
Yeah.
When do you sleep?
Yeah.
When do you do anything?
Right.
When's private time? And I want to throw something in here real quick. I had a buddy of mine. I was about 20, and he stated he had no belief in God, and he stated the reasons why. And one of the things that he stated was the circumstances of his life up to that point. That if there was a God, how could God make these things happen? Now, I understand that. I've thought that way. So for anybody that doesn't, once again, the rules are there's no rules here. So this is the only thing that I want to throw in here. If you have no belief in anything, is there anything on this table, anything in this room, anything that came from nothing?
Yeah. Of course not.
Somebody made this.
Right.
Somebody made your glasses.
Right.
Somebody made your watch, your clothes, all of it, the phone, the table. Well, using common sense, how can we look upon the entire universe and say that was by chance?
By chance.
If
Accident.
everything
A
we
big bang
use,
blew up.
everything we do that we use to function in
Was
life
made
for
by
any
somebody.
and everything
Yeah.
is made by somebody, how could everything else be made by nothing?
Yeah.
And it's pure
Right.
100%
Accident.
chance.
Here's the other to take that a step further too. Everything.
Is there any common
No.
sense logic that you could find that
There
you can
isn't.
back that up?
The only people that want to be atheists are people who don't want rules to apply to them. That's all that is. Because with freedom,
funny. That's
yeah.
that's a finite approach.
Yeah, with freedom,
You know?
there's also responsibilities, and I think that the good spirit in the universe, the good force, God, you want to call it, gives you freedom of choice, and that's why there's suffering with good, because you have the choice to make things wrong, you have the choice to do evil, you have the choice to do everything like that. With evil, there may not be any apparent suffering, because evil is going to order you to do everything a certain way. There is not going to be any chance. There's not going to be any free will. But then again, there will be no true happiness, even though there will be no overt suffering.
So what
And so-
you're saying there is that in you're saying that we could end world hunger tomorrow if we chose to.
Perhaps, maybe so. One thing I'm definitely saying. I want to take that whole.
Because that's an important thing there.
Have
It's
you
a
ever
choice.
seen? Let's go back to. Have you ever seen something come from nothing? Some people will look at that and say, well, because it's the blind watchmaker. It's the blind, stupid watchmaker argument. Like you're walking out in the woods and you see something in the dirt on this path out in the middle of nowhere. And what is that? And you dig something up. It's shiny. You pull it up and it's a watch. It's a pocket watch. One of those old school, nice pocket watches with a gold chain. It's all tarnished and dirty. But you open it up. It's got gears, intricate little gears and stuff in it. It's got beautifully carved numbers on it and stuff like that. Only a fool, I submit, would look at that and say, huh, this just accidentally came together. Nobody would say that. You would look at that and say, well,
And
look,
I'm not
somebody,
laughing at somebody
yeah.
who doesn't have a belief system.
No. But it's weird. I don't know how, but nobody would say that. You would look at that and say,
logic couldn't lead
somebody
to that
made
conclusion.
this.
Yeah.
So when you look at a solar system that goes around in circles at exactly the same rate and doesn't deviate one bit, because if it did,
Precise gears.
life would
Yep.
stop on this earth. When you look at all the stuff, the order that we see around us, if you look at that and say, well, accident, the Big Bang exploded, some gas that was actually nowhere because there was nothing before that exploded out of nothingness into something. Here's an even simpler way to put it. In the age of computer programming, think about information. Have you ever seen information come from a source that wasn't intelligent? Have you ever seen any information anywhere? A code, a computer program, a book, a poem, some music, so any information. Have you ever seen information come from non-intelligence, from nothingness, from randomness? No. Then why is it that our DNA, which contains trillions of little numbers, alphanumeric codes in it, A, C, D, and whatever the letters are, these amino acids and proteins that make up our code, our genetic makeup, this is information encoded in your body at a microscopic level that would, if you expanded it all, you've all heard the stats as big as the Library of Congress and a trillion miles from here to the moon and back stretching if you unraveled your DNA, whatever.
Yep.
That's nothing but
chance.
pure information.
Yep.
That is pure coded information. Have you ever seen information that didn't come from an intelligence? So right there, the whole argument is over as far as I'm concerned. Now, when you start getting into the details, do you know exactly what that intelligence is like? How could you?
Can't.
How could you possibly?
And you know what? That's where the magic is, though.
Yeah.
It is.
You don't want to know.
That's where I enjoy meditating on.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to meditate on infinite.
When I look at stuff like...
Because it's so mind opening.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult sometimes, but when I really can focus in on trying to see things infinitely,
mm-hmm.
it changes. And look, I can't see things infinitely,
mm-hmm.
but it just makes my mind,
mm-hmm.
my view, get bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And bigger.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To where I've gotten to a point now where if somebody says, well, that could never be this way, and I go,
well, I don't know.
It
could.
Could.
Yeah. When I look at the little coincidence, you're talking about when you contemplate on nature and the things around you. You look at when I look at the little coincidences, because I don't believe in coincidences.
I don't either.
But when you look at the little coincidences around you, I have to say, like, that clearly was put there on purpose for people to look at and think this. For example, my favorite one, you ever notice how we have trees around us, trees on the planet?
Mm-hmm.
And what is the function of trees? Trees actually breathe in carbon dioxide.
They make this a safe place for us to breathe in.
Trees take in carbon dioxide and put out oxygen. Well, why is it that your lungs look like inverted trees? And they do the inversion of taking in carbon dioxide. They take in oxygen and put out carbon dioxide. You can't tell me somebody didn't make that up. And I got an inverted tree in my lungs, a structure that looks like an inverted tree that does the inverse of what trees do. Really?
But you know what?
That was chance.
But here's what happens, though. People's lives, and it's happened to me, too. Scenarios, things happen, and we don't realize our own power, our own ability, and lives things happen, bad things happen, and we're under such emotional duress, such fear, that we can't see it any other way, because that's what fear does. Fear
clouds
makes
your vision.
It completely one tracks. It takes everything, and actually the easiest way to explain it is when I actually saw my vision tunnel, and meaning it was, I saw it happen. I was trying to, and it was a very stressful situation. I was in a house that might have an intruder in it. I was doing things that were dangerous, and man, my vision literally kept going like this.
Yeah, it gets smaller. Yeah.
Whoop, and I would have to fight it back. I'd go, Jeff, open your eyes, open your eyes. Because that's how paralyzing the fear was. Because I was scared.
Yeah.
I was very afraid.
Right.
And that's what fear does. It just shrinks everything, and you can't see, you can't think. All you know is the fear.
Right. And when you're afraid,
Just like right now, all anybody knows is fear.
Yeah.
Fear of losing their house, fear of losing their child,
fear of getting
losing
COVID,
them dying,
Yeah.
fear of, am I going to have food?
Yeah.
And man, I better go along. I better do what I'm told.
but when you're afraid, you can't see, like you said, that tunnel vision. All you can see is the thing that's making you afraid. You can't see wide enough to and calmly enough to think about things like, oh, wait a minute, this so-called COVID that's supposed to be killing everybody only affects 0.002%
Can't think for yourself.
of the population.
Yep.
That's how many people have been infected, and the other ones, how many died. I'm getting my numbers off, but we've done these numbers before on the show live. So just check out some of the other episodes, or just, hey, look at the CDC website and take the population of your state and look how many cases of COVID have been in your state, other than New York, because obviously they doing something wrong. I don't know what's going on there.
Now, what do you think about when I've had my kids ask me, I've had adults ask me, well, how do you know then, how do you know if God's talking to you? How do you know if good's talking to you? How do you know?
Yeah.
And this is what I've learned, is that God is the greatest possible, highest thought. And I'm gonna roll into this talking about the fear thing. God's the highest thought. The highest thought that I could come up with. The highest love that I can imagine, that I can come up with. The grandest, best decision that I can make.
And not the easy, fun, good feeling.
And
wealth creating.
Fear is the exact
It's the basest.
opposite.
It's the basest, lowest.
Yep. It's the
I gotta
lowest.
do this right now for me, because I got
it is the lowest possible thought. It is the
Something
the
gonna get
biggest
me.
fear-driven thought. That also means it has the biggest ego, the biggest lack of humility. You know, that drives me to say, you're not doing what I say to do, and now I'm going to force you to do what I say to do. And I will force it in any way I see fit. Period. Because I want to rule over you. I will be fine, but I will quietly destroy everything about you. But I'll tell you I care about you.
Yeah, we're seeing that a lot.
I'll tell you that I actually have your best interest.
And then make you look bad when you say, wait a minute, that's not in my best interest. This is in my best interest. You know,
you want to move against me?
Yeah.
Well, I'll wreck everything about you.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny is it almost seems like so many of our leaders are making decisions like they're afraid of something. And it's not us. It's not, meaning it's not a virus.
Right. And it's not us either. They ain't
You know what I
us.
mean?
Yeah,
It's not a virus they're afraid of.
Yeah. What are they afraid of? Not doing what somebody else is telling them to do. And who is that somebody? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't think it's a person. I think it's a power and a principality.
So here's something interesting about how you and I met. Now, I've shared this with you before. I find no coincidence in it whatsoever. Because once again, it's the watch in the dirt. It's impossible. Okay, you're from Texas. I'm from Maryland. And if you consider all the equations in our lives that led up to your wife walking in the door, well, I couldn't make any of that happen if I tried to.
Right.
And if you consider the one thing that really caught your attention, first it was what your wife said about me. Then what was the next thing?
Oh, my wife said that she's like, this guy and the owner, he seems real nice, and he was walking around, he had his gun on his hip and everything. And I was like, he had his gun on his hip. Well, he might be all right.
Now, most people, here's what happens. Most people, the wife comes in the door and says, that crazy SOB's wearing a gun.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the truth. Most people go, yeah, we're not going back there. He's got a gun.
Yeah.
But that's not the case.
Yeah.
What are the chances that she walks in the auto shop of the guy wearing the sidearm?
Well, that's my wife. I chose her. So, yeah.
But you follow what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
And then now we sit here.
Yeah, so it was an infinite chain of events that is infinitely impossible
That we
for
had
any
no
of
clue
us.
were even going on.
Yeah, none of us could make it happen. The way it happened was so weird and so coincidental. What is
That's
that?
impossible.
It's impossible. And what is that? It's not called coincidence. It's that term that Carl Jung made up. It's gonna come to me. Y'all know it out there. It's called something that's so coincidental. It's not coincidence. It's basically what the definition of it is, and it's called. Oh man, it's gonna eat me up. I'm glad you're looking for it. Look up Carl Jung and coincidence. It'll pop right up. Synchronicity. There it is, right there. There's no way to arrange that synchronicity right there. Synchronicity is the appearance of purposeful motion that appear to be coincidental. Or it's hard to even describe, but you know it when you see it.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I'll give you a little piece of coincidence. So because of this COVID stuff, we was all stuck at home, right? For the first week or so, a few weeks ago, about a couple months ago, I was still working. But they had us working at home on some stuff that we could do here. So I'm sitting at home, and because I'm at home more often, I start looking at Netflix and all that, Amazon more, like everybody's doing. And I was like, I don't like nothing on TV today. I don't like the messages. I don't like the acting. I don't like the stories. I was like, So I can't hardly watch no new TV. Long story short, or long story long, as one of my friends always says. Long story long, I start watching old 80s stuff. I've been doing that for a while. So I go, let me see something good from the 80s. I pull up Spencer for Hire. Y'all remember Spencer for Hire? Now, because I like Spencer for Hire, I was like, man, that's some good stuff. And I said, I need some comfort right now, man. Take my mind off stuff. Let me look at another one of my shows that I like. Another one of my shows I like is called Jesse Stone, the Jesse Stone series. It's got Tom Selleck in it, Magnum PI, but he's another police officer, but it's more modern times. He's older. I love those a lot. Come to find out, I realize these are probably books. So I look up the books. The guy who wrote Spencer for Hire wrote the Jesse Stone trilogy. Robert B. Parker. He wrote all of it.
Really?
I had no idea. How do I like two different TV shows from two different eras? One made in the early 80s, one made in the mid 2000s. Written by the same guy. I have no clue. Why do I like it? Two different actors. Two different production companies. Something draws me to him. I find out, it's the same guy behind all of it. That's not a coincidence.
I want to ask you something. Do you think that, because there's this idea that, like my buddy, well, there can't be a God because I feel so bad. I feel so much hurt. I feel so much disappointment. That means that there's this thought process that if it doesn't feel good, and it doesn't make me feel good, then then God hates me.
Right.
Or there isn't one.
Yeah.
Because it usually is God doesn't like me, God doesn't exist because of this.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is we think this is where drugs, this is why this is where all this stuff comes in. Because I was just writing down, you got me thinking about this. I'm like, when I chase just feeling good, I don't want to be afraid, I want to avoid it. I don't want to go through it. Okay? I just don't want to feel it. I don't want to have any part of it. Then where that leads to. But when I decide to go through it, which does require faith, and you know what? Those who think that, I don't have any faith, let me tell you something. If you get in a car and start it up, you have faith. If you flip a light switch on, you have faith. You just don't realize it.
Yeah.
But because when I go the route of just feeling good, then I don't feel inspired.
Yeah.
I don't find solutions. I don't feel motivated. I don't feel love.
The God part of you is not activated.
Yes.
You're only seeking that.
When I'm driven by the fear, of a virus by fear of anything, I become judgmental.
Yeah.
I become hateful.
Yeah.
I become vengeful.
Yeah, and fear makes you feel good in a different way. What fear does is when you start hating people and pointing fingers at people, then you start feeling superior.
Well, and you know what? That's that great thing about what in the Bible. What does Satan always promise?
What? Paradise?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, think about what the parable in the Adam and Eve. What did he promise?
If you eat this apple, you'll be unlike unto him.
Well, and it's now.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't say a year from now.
Yeah. Yeah.
He says now.
Yeah.
Now you will be.
You will
now
not taste
you will
death,
feel.
yeah.
That's always the instant now. Now. And this is one of the things that scares me is what I see right now. I see and I have a lot of hope, but it doesn't mean, so what do we do about it? So, I say I'm afraid right now, and I am, but this is part of the reason we're doing this, is because it doesn't have to be this way.
Right.
But what I see right now is there's just like this fear and evil has just got this clinch on everything right now. It's just controlling everything. And, what's funny is my government's doing what my government's going to do.
Yeah, there's nothing we can do to.
I mean, they're doing what a government does. We talked about that before.
Right.
These are my expectations.
Yeah, government's gonna government.
But what are we doing?
Yeah, and this is where
what are we doing?
This is where we have to divorce ourselves from that fear. So, I mean, like one of the things that I do to divorce myself from that fear.
I mean, people are afraid to open their businesses because of what's going to happen to them.
Right.
Well, what if everybody opens their business?
Yeah.
Or what if 40% open it? What are they going to do?
What if 20 or 30% open their business?
Look what Musk did in California. I was telling you about earlier.
Yeah, Elon Musk.
He just said, we're going to open.
Yeah. Of course, he's a billionaire, so he has that courage of his money.
But you want to know something? His money had nothing to do with that. Because what he said was, I'm going to be there, and if they're going to arrest anybody, they can arrest me.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to let them control my business, my livelihood, or the livelihood of my employees, of my people, or anything.
Yeah.
And
now I think money has something to do with it because when
you think?
I know it does because when you're a billionaire like that, you're gonna be on the assembly line and the police may come arrest you, but let's get real, you're Elon Musk, so you're not gonna actually spend any time in jail. You're not gonna actually get bopped over the head. You probably have a crew waiting there for it. You got a whole production.
So you're thinking.
So he has that kind of.
You're thinking that California didn't move on him because he has money.
I'm thinking that he's not your average Joe because another thing.
What I'm thinking is they didn't move on him because he's got a whole lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of money and people. With money comes visibility.
Imagine if your leader steps up and says, "We're opening."
Yeah.
And then they show up. What do you think all those people are going to do?
Yeah. Well, I know what happens when small people, when regular people open up their shops.
I'm challenging you right now. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, I know what happens when regular people open up their shops. They get arrested, like that mom in Dallas, and they go to jail.
So I wonder what would have happened if she had a business of 500 people.
Yeah. Yeah. People that, by the way, people that are looking for why don't God do this and why does he hate me and why ain't life easy and why is there suffering? People like that, I honestly, they're looking for a reason not to believe in God because it's common sense, man. If you think about it, I'll tell you a parable since we talking all, religious tone.
I'm going to say they're doing that because they're being motivated by fear.
Yeah, by fear perhaps, but they're still looking for an easy way.
Yes.
But
bingo.
Yeah. When my daughter was a little girl.
Yeah, fear is easier.
Yeah,
think about it. You're afraid to go into the dark, don't go.
Yeah.
You'll never find out.
You're afraid to start a business, don't start it.
Yeah. If that's where you want to be.
You're afraid to go talk to that pretty girl? Don't do it.
Yeah.
It's easy. And then make it up.
It hurts the worst.
She sucks. She probably would have said no because it's, it's her fault. That's why she stuck up anyway. Yeah, with the thing that I was going to tell you, man, my daughter was a little girl. This goes back to that why is there bad stuff happening in the world? Why is there suffering? As a parent, so one day I'm watching her ride her bike, and we had just moved into the house in Texas there, and by the house there was a big gravel lot, and she's riding her bike. She's a new bike rider. She's like 7, 6, whatever. And I'm looking at her. I'm like, hey, babe, don't go on that gravel over there because you're going to fall and scrape your knees up. And she's like, no, I'm not, Daddy. I can do it. And I knew for a fact she couldn't do it. She doesn't ride a bike good enough. But what did I say? Okay, go ahead. I gave her the freedom to make her mistakes. And what happened? She rolled over on the gravel, took about 2 or 3 good pedals, fell, scraped her knees up, came running over with knees bloody. And what I do? Nothing. I looked at her and said, you fell on that gravel and scraped your knees up, didn't you? Didn't I tell you that? Yes, sir. All right, well, go in the house, wash your knees off, put a Band-Aid on them, and get back on your bike. That's why bad stuff happens. That's why there's suffering, because you choose to go your own way. And because God does not choose to. I could have stopped all that suffering if I'd have said, no, you will not go on that gravel. You will stop now and do what I tell you.
But then you know what would have happened? She never would have had the experience.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? So it almost seems like God is speaking more through experience than just words.
And not only that, but she also learns to trust in me when I say stuff. Faith, in other words. Not that, I don't want my daughter to have faith in me like that, but that's how you build faith. Yep. When you trust in somebody and they do what they said and what they said comes to pass, you go, oh, I see how that works. And then if you go against what somebody says and then the thing that they told you is going to happen, bad happens, you go, oh, hey, that's basic intelligence. I'm going to start doing what this dude say. Daddy or Heavenly Father, whatever the case may be. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Yep. But yeah, I think people, there's a dude named Bart Ehrman. I used to read some of his books, and he had some pretty provocative titles. And why did they change the Bible, or who changed this? When did Jesus become God? I think was one of them. So I'm reading some of his stuff, and he has one about suffering, and I kind of lost respect for him as that because of that book. Why is there suffering in the world? This proves that there can be no God. So he said he lost faith because of that. And I was like, you're a Christian, like, professor of, I forget what he is, of religion and philosophy or something, and you've lost faith because if there's suffering in the world, that means God is either not good or he doesn't care about us.
You know, I got to tell you, man, my existence, for me, the moments of the highest suffering have rewarded with the greatest experience and the greatest lessons learned. They have.
Yeah.
I mean, as odd as it sounds, I'm not saying I'm going out looking for a problem.
Nobody wants to suffer, but when you push through.
But I will tell you, man, when you get to the other side of it, the change in yourself and the way you think about, the way you see the world, the way the opinion of yourself, it's such a monumental feeling. And you know what? The only people that understand that, once again, that's almost kind of infinite. I can't explain it.
No.
But if you've done it, you've been through it, you know it.
Yeah.
I call it the it. If you've had the it, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, you don't. And you know what? I hope you do. You know, just like we hope people can think for themselves. You know,
you definitely won't be able to think for yourself if you keep watching TV and let them scare your pants off. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, my opinion only, is that there have been rare times in history where man has gotten some written stuff correct. And one of the things that I look at is the statements of our founding documents and all that. And it's amazing to me that these men were told, and okay, I get it. Well, they own slaves. They this, they that. You can't fix everything and everything and all in a day.
They're imperfect, and things change and get fixed slowly. That's why they call it civilization. It slowly builds.
The premise that we are all created equal.
Nobody ever had that thought before, by the way.
Man.
And that comes from Christianity.
And that we are born.
Yeah. Because we were created.
We are born with rights.
Yeah.
Period. Because we were born, they are ours.
Yep.
And nobody can have them.
And you can't even actually give them away.
Yep, you can't.
Inalienable, however you want to pronounce it. Some people say alienable. I think that makes more sense.
And they were putting that information down and saying, if you actually think about who you are, what you are. I love the way you put it. I'm a sovereign man. Make my own decisions. I reap my own consequences, my own benefits for my own decisions. And, man,
I'm imperfectly
you can't
sovereign.
tell me that's not divinely inspired, because there's not a lot of other documents you read. There are times where people have spoken, theorized about it and all that. But that's the But
Yeah.
is that happening? People ask yourself this question: is that happening right now?
In almost
are
all
you a
of-
free person?
No. In almost all of human history, the reality has been the opposite of that.
Yes.
Where you did not have freedom, you did not own yourself. You probably were a slave of or a serf of some sort. Someone did have a claim over your life.
Yep.
Someone did tell you where to go. Someone did sleep with your wife first before when you got married
Yep.
to her, prima nocta, primogeniture, and all that stuff. People did sell you with the land that you worked on. Nobody ever in the world thought, God created me, therefore I must be his son or his daughter, and therefore I have worth, and therefore I am equal to everybody, and nobody is not equal. Nobody is more equal than me. Nobody is better than me. Nobody ever had that thought. Nobody of any consequence. They didn't write it down and start working on it.
Right.
I'm sure somebody thought it before, but they didn't do nothing about it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, we've got passages in the Bible, things that I mean, man, there's a lot in our founding documents that's taken from the Bible, tied to King David and ruling and all that, and which that's the whole premise. It's how many Americans know that the whole premise that you are born with rights is under the premise of a creator. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, what does it say? That we are endowed by our creator.
Yeah, with certain rights. Among these are
Yep.
the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness.
Yep.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Well, notice among these are.
Because these, it ain't all of them.
We're just touching on them.
Yeah. That's what we were talking about before, about the Constitution. It's not.
Man, I get chills because among. Can it get written any better?
No, that's some good
among
writing.
these are.
Yeah.
We're not even getting to all of them.
Yeah, we're
but
just touching on the top three,
some of them.
top 2 or 3.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the sad part is how much. We think, well, we're talking more about that with the freedom of speech. When you can walk up to somebody and cuss them out. Okay, that's what you think this is about?
Yeah.
Which, sure, you can.
You might hurt their feelings if you say this word or that word. That's not free. That's not the freedom of speech. First of all, if you're a gentleman or a gentlewoman, if you're a person of breeding and good bearing and being properly raised, you don't purposely go up to people and hurt their feelings anyway.
Yep.
I like, for example, with them pronouns, the gender pronouns and stuff, I think that's the silliest stuff I ever heard about. However, I'm a gentleman. And if I'm talking to someone and they says that it really makes me feel uncomfortable and hurt, if you call me this, can you call me that? I'll say, okay. Now, you can't say in a law,
Right.
I got to do this.
Yes.
No.
Yes. Yeah.
Out of respect for you as one of God's creation, I will use whatever
and I
term
have to
you
say
want
this,
me to use.
the Republicans, do you hear what Robert just said? Because that's what's great.
What's that?
Well, if you want to think of yourself as a zoo, a z, a thou, a whatever.
These ain't made up words, folks. They use zer, zim, and z or something like that.
If that's what you want to do, you can.
Okay.
And you can ask somebody to call you that, and they can choose to call you that or not.
And don't be getting me fired
And you know
because
what?
I don't want to call
and
you
if
a make
they
up
don't want
word.
to call you that, here's the great news: is you can choose not to make them a part of your life.
Yeah, well, don't talk to them no more.
Yeah, that easy. That simple. But no, you want, due to your fear, them to be forced to follow your will, your bidding.
Yeah, it's the absence of fear is when you are
And-
able
and
to
it's
just look
no
at somebody
wonder.
and say,
It's no
do your
wonder.
own thing, go
And
your
you,
own
and
way.
you think about what we're doing, that we're right where we're at right now, because this is what everybody wants.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to have somebody else make the decisions for them. What's good, what's bad, what's right, what's wrong, so that they don't have to make those decisions. But the funny thing is but then they really do want somebody to do it what they want, how they want it, and this is what they want, and we're getting exactly that.
And what it is it's soft tyranny. There's people out there that want to control other people, but they don't want to put their hands in the mud and do it themselves.
Yep.
They want cops and military and politicians and your job and your bosses to control you, to make you bend to their will. But it's like, dude, if you want to bend me to your will so bad, why don't you come over here and bend me? Why you got to make a law that says I got to do this or that or the other?
And then someone will say, well, yeah, but people could die.
People gonna die anyway.
Well, you're absolutely right. We're all going to die.
Like Scarface said, we was all born dying. Ain't
We're all
no
gonna
use in
die.
trying. We might as well face it. We was all born dying.
Yep.
great Houston, Texas poet, Scarface of the Ghetto Boys.
And there's something in that too, because you know what, in the U.S., we death is such a negative thing. If you think about it, that's not what God says.
Yeah, everybody want to go to heaven, but everybody's scared to die. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and because we view it, and there's so much money benefiting people, keeping people alive.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there is. I mean, just pull the numbers on the health on the health world, and you'll magically find. You already know this, but how much money is spent on the dying?
Yeah.
Because they can't die. No way, they can't die. Not allowed to.
Yeah.
You know what? My will deems they can't. We got laws that say we take oaths that say they can't die.
Yeah.
And then the horrible thing is, if they do, somebody might get sued.
Yeah. Yeah. That goes back to this COVID stuff too, about how everybody's afraid of death, and they're talking about the numbers that they throw around, and they use, we got another 200,000 cases and blah blah this blah blah blah. Don't if you don't do this, we could die. Somebody could die, and I'm like,
well, so what happens if you test negative tomorrow? Well, in 3 days, what happens?
What happens if you test positive right now in 3 days?
Well, but
85%, 95% of people, nothing happens.
So we will expel all the fear by having 300 million Americans tested.
Right.
And everybody will know who has it, who doesn't have it. And now the fear's gone.
That's just not the fear.
Nobody's thinking about it.
That's game, yeah.
No, I know. Yeah. But you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
And do you feel better now? Because in 24 hours, 25% of the people that didn't have it just might have it.
Yeah.
So you fixed nothing.
Yeah.
You gained nothing, got nothing, fixed nothing.
What they gained is a database.
They stuck a needle in your arm.
Yeah.
They did all this stuff. You got nothing, gained nothing. But you know what? You're broke.
Now you're still
in
scared.
Debt.
You still ain't got no job. You're still non-essential. You still can't get what you need at the store.
How about
and
that?
There is a gain to it. And that's the way, from what I understand, we're talking about these powers that be. I think that the people out there that do evil, I think they, just like people that do good on purpose to serve their God. They have a concept that good is somehow related to God. The people that do evil know that is what their God
They view
craves.
it the same way.
They are serving their God on purpose when they do this stuff. And one of the things that they do when they do this evil, I've noticed there's always a circular reinforcement to it. So they do something evil, they cause fear, gets a reaction out of you, and then they make money all the way around the thing, and they get power all the way around the thing. So they come up with something, it scares you, they get power over you, they get laws passed. The laws that they pass give them more power and money. Then they sell you a vaccine, for example. They make billions off that. Then you get sick, and they make billions off that. And then, you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. They get power and money all the way around the circle on this earthly plane because they serve the God of this world.
You got me looking around.
Don't be scared.
We were talking about the circle stuff the other day.
Oh, yeah. Tell them what that
So
circle stuff.
I've always been attracted to circles since I was a kid. And I've never understood why. It's just, I love circles. The things you can do with circles, the shapes they make. And as I got older, I started paying attention that circles are everywhere. They seem to be a consistent presence in life. Circles. Mm-hmm. Our planets are round. Our Earth is round. The sun is round. The moon is round. Our heads are round. Mm-hmm. Your watch is round. Mm-hmm. My watch. Look, mic stands, circles. The light sockets, the lights up in the ceiling, light bulbs, tires, everything that moves.
Yeah, everything that
is a circle.
Right.
Everything that moves around this planet moves in circles. Shoot, watch a dog look for a place to go to a bathroom and it walks in a circle. There's something magical about circles, man.
It's talking about magic in circles. You have the circle in magic when you draw a circle on the ground.
Yeah.
It contains power inside and stops power from getting on the outside.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
There's something.
I read the Dresden Files.
There's something uniquely divine. They're everywhere.
What was the what were we saying about the fact that the circles are? Because we touched on a lot of stuff. We're trying to recall conversations that we had.
Everything in motion seems to go in a circle.
Mm-hmm. Now somebody's going to say, well, that's because there's less resistance when you round off the corner.
Well,
Squares don't roll.
Right, but that's a universal truth.
Right.
And that's magical, meaning, how did we figure out that wagon wheels work? Because we didn't know that at one point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Observation, I'm sure, yeah.
But if you look around, it's almost like God said, look, the answer's in a circle. Just follow the circle, okay? The sun's round, the moon's round. If you do everything, you breathe. Your breathing's circular.
The only thing that you don't want to be...
Energy is circular.
The only thing you don't want to be circular is your reasoning. Circular reasoning gets you nowhere, but you're right. Even if you take some copper wire, and wrap it around a nail and spin it in a circle real fast with some magnets around it, it creates electricity.
Yep.
What's up with that?
Yep.
That's why yin and yang, that's one of my favorite philosophies, and it's the way I kind of see the world, the basics of the world. In case you don't know, yin and yang is Taoism. It's a Chinese philosophy that explains how life works.
Those are all circles in there.
Yeah, exactly. Why are coins around? I don't know. But anyway, this Taoism, it says that the yin and yang, the male and female, or the positive and negative, the opposite principles, two opposite principles, God and evil, or good and evil rather, they're locked in eternal combat with each other, if you want to look at it like combat or eternal struggle to gain the upper hand. And when they're fighting, going around in this circle, they cause the motion. That motion is the motion that underlies everything in life. And that's true. If you look at man and woman, two opposites. That's why it's called yin and yang. It's the male and female principle, or a positive and negative principle. And they're attracted to each other because each one has a little bit of the other principle in it. Yeah. That's why the yin, or the black one, the yin is the white one, the yang is the male, the black one. The black side has a little white dot, and the white side has a little black dot. They're attracted to each other because of that. They can't help it, but they're in conflict with each other at the same time because they're opposite natures. Dude, what creates a tornado? Hot and cold air coming together. What creates electricity? Positive and negative. Or what creates a baby? Male and female. Everything is like that, and everything moves in that circular motion you're talking about.
It's necessary. It's almost that's. It's, let the light, the statement about Jesus, let the light into the world, let it be a light in the darkness. Well, here's what's interesting, and we've talked about this, but there's a difference between knowing and experiencing. There is. Your daughter might have known not to go in that gravel, but then she experienced what happens when she goes in the gravel. That lesson is way bigger and more important than the knowing. It's the experiencing. So how does a light know it's a light? It's got to be put into the darkness.
Yeah.
A light, if it just is a light, well, it doesn't know anything until it's in the dark.
Yeah.
It requires the dark to be a light. It's necessary.
Yep.
It's needed. It's absolutely got to happen.
It's funny, too, how even a tiny speck of light can dispel the darkness. But no amount of darkness can even dispel one tiny speck of light.
Absolutely.
That's interesting. I was just thinking about that. Like a candle it's going to always be light as long as that candle is lit. It may not extend far out from the candle, but it's going to always be light. No darkness can get on that candle and be like, you can't see it no more.
Yep.
And we're talking about the nature of good and evil here, folks, in case you ain't listening. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good point. I never thought about that. You're right.
The smallest spark is going to create light. No matter how much dark there is, you're going to see that light.
The dark cannot consume it.
Wow. I don't even know what to say after that. I got to think about that for a minute.
2 digits.
You might be right, man. We're gonna leave y'all with that thought. We've probably been talking long enough, but this was kind of an aimless show. It's not aimless. We had some deep things to talk about. We didn't want to talk about COVID no more. I'm sick and tired of COVID. I'm gonna start talking about some strategies to mitigate and get away from COVID and get away from all these fools talking about COVID. And one of those things you gotta do is not be scared, because fear causes darkness. Fear snuffs out your light. The light, as long as there's a little, like we were just saying, as long as there's a little tip, a little spark, a little flame lit, it's going to dispel that darkness. But fear comes along and knocks that flame out. It takes that flame and pinches it out. You know what I'm saying?
And real quick, this is something I was taught. that I pass on to my kids too, because I didn't understand courage and fear.
Mm-hmm.
See, I thought courage meant you had no fear.
Right.
That's what I thought.
A lot of people think.
And I thought that up until I was a young adult. I did not know. That's what I thought, because I was afraid it meant I had no courage.
Right.
And then a mentor said, read this book, but here, know this. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the ability to walk through the fear. Mm-hmm. And man, when I heard that, that was like permission. Mm-hmm. I went, oh, so it's okay to be afraid.
Right.
I thought it meant that I had no courage. That's what I thought it meant about me. And my life really changed after that.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen,
else, man.
I don't think I do either. This is actually hard work. We've talked about this a couple times. When you up here talking and thinking and bantering back and forth and trying to be cool and witty and not look like the idiot that you are. I'm just speaking
idiot
for myself.
That you are.
Yeah, you said the idiot. Hold up. I ain't no idiot. What you talking about? It's hard work, man. But anyway, it's such hard work that I don't know where here we go. Twitter handle at Northstar_Rob. Website, of course, the NorthstarPodcast.com, NorthstarPodcast.com. Social media, check us out on YouTube, which is the North Star Podcast channel. And if you check us out on iTunes, please get on there and like I said, leave some comments. Don't put some stars on that iTunes. If you like it, just put 1. If you don't like it, or whatever you're going to do, but put something there and say something. That brings you up in the ratings, man. We're trying to grow this. We're trying to get to 100 subscriptions or subscribers on YouTube. Actually, we're trying to get to 1 million, but we got to start with 100 because you got to get there first, because that's the way numbers work. And so please leave a comment, leave whatever you want to do, whatever you want to say. We're cool with it. We don't mind dissent. In fact, we probably want to hear some dissent.
Yeah.
Chime in. Let us know your thoughts. Let's build a community here. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to the North Star Podcast. My name is Robert Jenkins. This is Jeff Gerlach. And we want to bid you, as always, two digits.